Welcome back to the show, Cherries fans. So, after our fantastic result against Fulham and a fantastic result against Nottingham Forest, I've been saying fantastic result quite a bit recently. We are on the road again, and this time we are going to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, somewhere that we had quite a memorable game last season. Of course, that Dango Ouattara final minute goal, which won us the 3 points in North London. Harry Redknapp, of course, had his say on that game. Hopefully, fingers crossed, it'll be a repeat or something a little bit more comfortable would be preferable. Spurs haven't been in the greatest of form. They had a terrible November, but did win 3 on the bounce recently until last night, of course, when they were beaten. It looked like it was going to be quite heavily by Brighton, but they did have a little bit of a resurgence at the end. Spurs, managed by Postecoglou now, do look a bit of a different beast to what they were under Antonio Conte. And it is a pleasure to welcome onto the show from the fantastic channel Scarfey Spurs Talk, Harry Scarfe. Welcome to Up the Cherries in all departments, Harry. How you doing, mate?
I'm very good, thank you. It's great to be here. Thank you very much for having me. Looking forward to discussing it. Obviously, Bournemouth in great form at the moment. We need to bounce back from a 4-2 loss against Brighton, so looking forward to getting into it.
Excellent stuff. And it's a pleasure to have you on the show. So I'll tell you what, let's go back to our corresponding game last season because it was an exciting one. All for the right reasons for ourselves. Dango Ouattara scoring the winner. What was that like for a Spurs fan, though?
Horrendous. It was a very good period. Not the season that I think we remember. Obviously, the worst place finish in 14 years. It wasn't good at all. And obviously, that loss wasn't great because we're going from the game where we think, oh, we won it, or oh, we got a point out of it, to end up coming away with nothing. So it's really frustrating from a Spurs point of view. Just kind of get the game over with, and we're very keen to get the season done. But it was a very good win for you.
Yep, most definitely. And we was absolutely delighted with the 3 points. It really led up to us securing our spot in the Premier League. And I think, that was a game which really helped us turn the corner. But let's go on to this season because Tottenham had a fantastic start to this season. And I've got to be honest, the manager, Postecoglou, I think it's always quite difficult when somebody comes from the Scottish League and is in charge of Rangers or Celtic, as we saw with Steven Gerrard. It's a bit of a different transition because you haven't got just the two teams. Normally, if you're in charge of Rangers or Celtic, you've got a very, very good chance of, well, you should be finishing in that top two. And Postecoglou did a fantastic job at Celtic. He started off brilliantly for yourselves. What do you feel that he changed?
I think it's just a case of part of it is our own fault and part of it is just unlucky. Obviously, we got lots of players injured. It was going really well until we got to that Chelsea game. I was there myself.
Mm-hmm.
We had Maddison and Van der Ven come off injured. Then we had Romero and Udogie rightfully get sent off. We lost that game. And from there, it's never quite been the same. I know we've won games, but in terms of performances, they haven't been good. So it's such a shame. And every team gets injuries. I think that we're suffering quite bad for them as well. But again, for example, when we play you, got Kulusevski out suspended, obviously Basuma out suspended. So a lot of it is our own doing. And that's the real frustrating things. I didn't think Chelsea were great. We end up losing 4-1, whereas I think with 10 men, we can win that game. We go 89th minute and it's still 1-1. So it just shows you fine margins, I suppose, in football. So I don't think it's a case of what he's done. I think it's what he's been able to work with. But we're just very grateful that we're very close to the January transfer window because we know that reinforcements are needed, recruitment's needed, especially in that defence. Like we conceded 4 goals against Brighton. We look really good. Could have easily scored 3 goals, which should seal you 3 points or at least something out the game. But that's where we need to work on defensively. It'd be great to have the likes of Van der Ven back. So slowly but surely, hopefully we can get players back. But in this moment in time, we're still in a good position, considering, I think, all things considered. But it was such a good start. But, it's kind of too good to be true, if you know what I mean.
No, I can understand. And, of course, it was a great start. considering that you sold Harry Kane. And Harry Kane is a player who is outstanding. Let's be honest, in an England shirt, he's been faultless apart from, unfortunate situations like that penalty miss against France in the World Cup. But he's been faultless for Tottenham, and he's left. And Postecoglou's gone on this fantastic run at the start of the season. One of the players that I think jumps out, to me, is James Maddison. Of course, he is out injured at the moment, but at Leicester, and I've spoken to a lot of Leicester fans about him, I feel, they feel that he kind of went a little bit off the boil for them towards the end of the season. But he's really done all the business for you.
He has, and that's why he's so keen to get him back. He said recently in an interview that it's the worst injury he's got his career. That's not what you like to hear. It's hard to think back. When Maddison played, it's been so long ago. It was that Chelsea game. So he hasn't played, anytime soon. So it'd be great to have him back. And the aim now is to keep in and around that top 6 until January, February, where we get your Van der Vens, your Bentancurs back, your Maddison's back, and we can really push on from there, get your players back from suspension. But he's been really good. I think personally, he was to score the goals that he scored and the goal contributions he got for Leicester, a team that went down, I think was pretty impressive. Maybe towards the end of the season, but again, I think he'd done an excellent job. And I think they would have, had far less points without him. I still think you have that connection with Leicester fans, which is great to see, and obviously taken that massive step up. And he's delivered so far. So I think it's fair to say he's one of our best, if not our best players already, based on what we've seen. He can control and dictate a game. We all know, if you want to win a football match, you've got to control the middle of the park, and you've got to have top players in that midfield. So James Maddison is fantastic. It'd be great to have him back. I'm just counting down the days now.
But Son's been good so far this season as well, hasn't he? And he's really led the line. We expected him to. But how important is he moving forwards for Tottenham Hotspur?
Very important. I think it's important, not necessarily for the long term, because I don't know how long he's got left, but he's very important for the short term in terms of getting Postecoglou's team playing the way he wants to and where we want to be. And as captain, I think he's really embraced that role. Obviously, he's looked at it, got Harry Kane, you've worked with for a long while. He's left. He's felt that responsibility to step up, and I think he's delivered on that. And what's great to see is that Son, can play really well on the left. He can play really well up front. And when we have injury problems and stuff like we do now, like with Kulusevski out, etc., we can go, we can put Son on the left against Bournemouth maybe, or we can put Son down the middle. It's just great to have that option, and he stepped up. He wasn't obviously great last season. He was going through an injury, needed surgery. And strangely, he wasn't allowed it after for the season. So we got to the end of the season. He had the surgery, and he looks a lot better. Maybe not recently, our recent performance, but generally he consistently performs. And when Son plays well, Tottenham Hotspur play well, and that is the key thing. So if we're going to get, what we want, 3 points against Bournemouth, then we need our captain on his best performance.
No, that's fair enough. One thing that I have noticed, though, and I did watch quite a bit of your game against Brighton, is that you're susceptible to being hit on the break, which... seems to be a problem that has plagued Spurs for so long. And to be honest, Postecoglou at the start of the season seemed to have it right. He seemed to have solved it, but it seems to have gone into the old. It seems to have gone into like the Spurs of old. These past 2 months. November was terrible. Apart from that Man City draw. November was bad. They had that spell, but what do you feel has changed from that start of the season to November, especially?
Yeah, I don't think anything's changed in terms of the tactics or the manager's message in Ange. I think it's the fact, again, what he's got to work with at the moment. We're standing at 14 players out for Bournemouth potentially, waiting to hear on the latest update. And obviously, for example, defensively, like you said, Brighton, every time they look forward, not being funny, looked like they were going to score. To give you an example, Brighton, we didn't put a centre-back out on the pitch. That is partly Postecoglou's choice, but we played 4 fullbacks, in that defence. For example, Davis and Everson as the 2 centre back. He isn't great. Romero now out for 4 to 5 weeks. Van der Ven, we're hoping he's going to be back in a couple of weeks after a hamstring injury. He's the big miss because Ange loves the high line. Van der Ven, has the pace, quickest registered player in the Bundesliga last season, so he kind of perfectly suits the system. Great piece of recruitment. Because not being funny, you saw the games though. I think you can agree with me on this. If it wasn't for Vicario, especially in that first half or the first 60 minutes, it could have been a cricket score. Brighton really could have, I don't know, make it one of the best wins ever. Not only against Tottenham Hotspur, but like in football, it could have been that big if it wasn't for Vicario. So that is a worry, absolutely. And when we're up against Solanke, for example, I mean, you can tell me more than I can the excellent form that he's in at the moment. It's crazy. He's doing really, really well. So that does worry me slightly. But you look at this Bournemouth game and you go, we've got an option of playing younger players through the academy and Phillips or Dorrington. You maybe put Eric Dyer in there. I just personally wouldn't put fullbacks in defence. So nothing, answering your question, nothing's really changed apart from the fact we've lost players and a lot of players have lost their head because I think we've got a discipline issue. So that's it for me. And I suppose that also teams figure you out as you go along. But generally, the players come back, I think we'll be very strong. And I still think we have a good chance of finishing inside the top 4.
Yeah, most definitely. And I think, the quality is there. You have been unlucky with injuries. And like you mentioned, you've got Sessegnon out. Of course, Basuma is suspended. Solomon has got a knee injury. Maddison's out, I believe, until February time. That's
Correct,
what I've seen here. So there's a lot of injuries. Oliver Skip should be back, though, should he?
Yeah, he's the one who should be back. He picked up a minor knock, and it's quite handy because Kulusevski played in that number 10 role. He usually does play on the wing, but he's been better in that number 10 role, because sometimes he slows down counter-attacks on the wing. He's allowed that freedom of the park in that number 10 role. And obviously, but he is out through suspension for Bournemouth, so I think Skip will probably be the one who takes his place if he's back. But he was only a knock. I think it's more of a caution because we don't want any more players out, so he should be the one who's back, and Kulusevski's the one out.
Bournemouth, of course, do play this very high line. They press in football, and it's worked. It's worked earlier on in the season. Of course, we had that game. I think it was back in August, wasn't it? And you beat us quite convincingly. We was in that transition period between Gary O'Neill and, of course, Andoni Iraola had come in, but was still finding his feet.
Yeah.
Now we're in full swing. And how are you going to stop Bournemouth, do you feel?
Great question. We also play a high line, so it does worry me again when you're up against the likes of Solanke. If you're Solanke, you look at it going, Tottenham might not even put a centre back out here. I'm in great form. They play a high line. I'm in for goals. I did think there'd be goals in this. I think it'd be a great game for the neutral. I said it against Brighton as well. Got 2 forward-thinking teams, both play a high line, 2 excellent managers. Let's be honest here. So it's going to be really, really interesting. To be honest with you, I don't know what we do. If that's me, I'll get rid of the high line, defend deeper, etc. I think putting the centre back on a pitch would be a good start. But we have to see. But it's going to take a lot to stop Solanke, the form he's in.
And the midfield is probably our strength. It is probably our strength. But I feel that, the Spurs have got a lot of quality there as well. You have got a lot of quality there. How vital is that going to be, controlling that midfield in beating us?
Yeah, absolutely huge. And that's what we need. And that is why we kind of look at it going, I wish we had the Bentancurs, the Maddisons, or Kulusevski, not lost his head because the midfield is so important, or Basuma as well. But I think you still got like Sarr in there, Skip in there, Højbjerg in there, Celso, whoever he goes with, they're all capable of putting their foot on the ball, dictating the game. And we all know that a very strong midfield that dictates the game is a very key part of winning a game. So it'd be really interesting to see. I fancy Bournemouth personally to win the midfield battle, but I think time will tell. But generally, both teams are very strong in midfield, so it'd be interesting to see how it plays out. Both teams will want to have a lot of the ball. I think it's a case of the first goal is very important. You take the lead. We have to take a bit more risks. Maybe you could play in your hands on the counter-attack, vice versa. So it'll be very interesting to see. But we will have to be a lot better, and without, for example, our passing than we were against Brighton. Midfield, I think, let us down against Brighton. Didn't protect the back 4 anyway. So that's one thing I think we need to work on.
I have to pinch myself when I say this, to be honest, but we are the form Premier League team. We're
Wow.
probably the team that you don't want to play at this moment in time. And we've, of
Yeah,
course, recently beaten Manchester United. A lot of people say, the Manchester United side was poor that day. And whilst I do kind of agree with that, there is, a lot of credit that needs to be given to our side. For
yeah,
example, the first goal, Lewis Cook really had no divine right in winning that ball and to run forward and that pinpoint perfect cross to Solanke to open the scoring against Manchester United. Where do you feel, Spurs, if you play the strongest team you can at the moment, so if Postecoglou goes with the strongest team, where do you feel that we are going to cause you the most problems? Because in the air, we're looking very good. From set pieces, we're looking very good.
yeah.
Crossing in, we're looking very good at the moment. Um, where do you feel that you will be able to cope with that? And where do you feel that we might get a bit of joy?
I'm going to say set pieces, and don't get me wrong, you are good at them, but this is a
Yeah,
case of, for me, more of the fact that at this moment in time, we haven't got that physical presence. We've never been able to, like, forgetting Postecoglou a minute before he came in, set pieces has always been a
yeah,
weakness, that height. So I can see that being a big thing. Although I don't, as far as I know, Brighton didn't score from one well. Second phase of play technically did yesterday from Estepinan's goal, but generally didn't score directly from a corner. But Dunk looked dangerous every time the ball went in the box. Very close, very unlucky they didn't score. If it wasn't for Vicario, I think they could have. Again, you're not being funny. You play Davis and Emerson as centre backs. They're both very short, probably the shortest, one of the shortest in the team for getting Gill. So that does worry me. Your presence from set pieces. I think the long balls over the top, you can get that right. Solanke can time his run because as soon as you get Solanke one-on-one, then we are in trouble. Obviously, back my keeper. I think Vicario has been excellent, but Solanke's form speaks for himself. So I think our defence, whatever that may look like, will have a real tough time on their hands. Like I said, I think the midfield's very key, but set pieces, in particular free kicks and corners, I think are going to be very dangerous.
Well, I was looking at the Premier League table. It is very, very open this year. Man City have gone on a bad run.
Yeah,
Aston Villa have broken their way into it, but of course, still, there's quite a bit of work I think that Emery needs to do. I shan't mention the other team in second. I'm
yeah,
sure
no,
the
don't.
Spurs fans
You can
don't
mention
want
their
me to.
loss last night.
Yeah, exactly. And to be honest, they weren't particularly very good from the highlights I saw. And of
No.
course, Liverpool, but you're only 6 points behind Liverpool. And really, with the form that you was in, I
Yeah,
think you could easily make that up, but you have to go on a run. And I think that run needs to start now. How
it does.
important is this game?
It is very, very important because we could find ourselves at the end of the weekend, 9 points off the top, and that is big. The aim isn't to win win the title. For me, it's to get into the top four, but still, you've got to keep in and around the best teams. We know that City, yes, are in a bad patch of form, but they win the game in hand. They go above Arsenal, a couple of points behind Liverpool, so they are also in it. So we need to keep in and around the teams. Villa, obviously, we could have gone third with a win. That's for me, really frustrating thing. It was a missed opportunity. But yes, for me, it's a case of getting to the start of February. Again, if we can keep in that ideally top five, but let's say top six, we can keep under, let's say 8 points from the leaders. And then I will start to believe it because we will get our best players back. Because for me, our best two players are Van der Ven and Maddison. We're missing them. Bentancur, I think, has a good shout of being our best player because, for example, we got injured against Leicester last season when we were 1-0 up. We lost the game 4-1, and that led to Conte's downhill. We got sacked, etc. So I think sometimes, last season we were very dependent, like on Harry Kane or Bentancur. It's good that we're not quite as dependent, but it does show how important I think these players are. So we can get through to February, but this game's important because we lose it. Then we looking around us. You've got Man United, Brighton, Newcastle. The eyes will be on them. West Ham as well. And we could find ourselves joint sixth with West Ham. And that is the concern. It could easily go wrong. And then you have Man United coming up on the 14th, where no players apart from Van der Ven could potentially be back. And you lose that. And then United go above you. So it's very important this game to keep with the teams like Aston Villa, City, etc. So all eyes on this Sunday because we need to bounce back as well. That Brighton game, not good.
Well, I can't believe I'm going to even ask this, but of course, Bournemouth, we've been on this incredible run, at the start of the season and after that Everton game, I was saying I didn't think it was going to work for Iriola. I've now, to be honest, I want to publicly apologise to him because I think he's done an outstanding job. And it's that corner. Sometimes it's good to admit that you're wrong in
Yeah,
football. And I was definitely wrong with that one. I said, well, I don't think it was right for the job. I mentioned even Jesse Marsh because I just didn't feel that it was going to work. But it
yeah,
has. And we're now we're imagining Europe. We're thinking, can we actually get into Europe? We've got a game in hand. Of course, that game is the one against Luton. But we're dreaming now. We're thinking, can we actually make the European places, which for a club of our size would be
amazing.
unbelievable?
Yeah, absolutely. I do think it's possible. And if you're going to apologise, I think I need to as well, because I said that I disagree with the decision personally to sack Gary O'Neill. I thought that Iriola, I personally thought that I liked him when he came in, and I liked to, I'd seen a few bits from his previous club. He got them playing, but we kind of got into it a few games after he played us. And I was like, oh, what, we're 8-10 games into the season, I can easily see you going down or finishing bottom of the league, etc. Obviously, you won the game. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but the owner flew into one of your games, etc. And I think you end up getting a good result out of that. Yep. So I was worried. But going into that game, I was like, oh, he's going to be sacked. So the turnaround has been really, really impressive. We've seen, for example, with Everton, we've seen that with you, just how much, a win means and the confidence can build, etc. It's just great to see Solanke, the most informed player in the Premier League right now. It's great to see him growing confidence. A player at times last season and when he was at Liverpool, etc., really, really struggled. So it's great to see him playing with confidence and playing without fear. But I think Europe is realistic. And if you want Europe, it'll be funny, you've got to beat a team like Spurs who should and want to be in European places. Maybe top 4, maybe top 6. Who knows? It's a moment in time. But you've got to beat the teams in and around you. You've done it. Man United, you want to catch up with them. You want to be where they are, in and around that top 6, 7. You beat them. And yeah, I agree that, United were abysmal, I think. But I think you deserve the credit. You were excellent. Took the game to United and just different class. So I'm definitely worried for Sunday. But Europe, I think, is possible. You just got to consistently get those results.
And I'm going to put a bit of a spin on this as well, because I've mentioned Europe. I've mentioned our dream. It'd be great to see, European teams. I'm hoping that, it'll be some decent European teams that we'll get if we get Conference League or the Europa League. Who knows? Who knows what will happen? But it's a bit of a double-edged sword because we've seen teams who have got into Europe. Yeah. And this is going to lead on to my next point. You know where I'm going with this.
Yeah,
where they have got into Europe and it's kind of fallen apart that season. If we get into Europe, of course, Spurs last season were in Europe and it was a terrible season. I think you won't forgive me for that, I'm sure. But
definitely.
What do you feel that we would need to do, and if Spurs were to get into Europe again, you would need to do to make sure that history doesn't repeat itself?
For me, it's a case of you've got to have almost 2 teams ready to go. And then the frustrating thing is when you've got like I've said now, we need to sign lots of players, for example, in January. But I'm thinking you have a fully fit team and you go and sign you end up having 4 quality centre backs. They're all going to want game time. So there's a problem with that. We've seen it with Brighton done really well in Europe, for example, but in the league, it'd be funny, 8th, 9th, that is not where we thought Brighton would be. We thought that, mostly they start the season well, in and around that top 4 or 5 is where I thought they'd be this year again. Newcastle, 9th. Do I need to say any more? We thought, could they challenge for the league this season? There's questions of them doing it last year. That's Eddie Howe's job is not on the line at all. It's being questioned slightly. you know, they're sitting mid-table basically, and they're out of Europe, finished bottom of the table. Didn't deserve to, in my opinion, but did in the end. So, yeah, it's. I don't think it would necessarily help you though. You get Europe, not being funny, for someone like Bournemouth, you're going to be concentrating so much on it. Newcastle, don't tell me they prioritised the Champions League, because they did. They're focused on it. They haven't been in it for so long. We want to focus on it. It's a huge thing for them. Brighton as well. Villa, really, really exciting. And then you lose concentration. So you've got to have that ultimate backing. Newcastle, I think in the future, if they're getting FFP for a minute, will be okay because they have the money, etc. But someone like us, we're really struggling now to put a good enough starting 11 out to win a football match. It worries me if we have Europe on top of that, and that for me is a real problem. So you just need. We've got the numbers. Yeah, we've got 36, 37 players, but just not of the quality. So that is getting players out the door, bringing players in. So for Bournemouth, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you have a really good start 11 that Iriola's found that works really well. But again, you kind of look to your bench, you look beyond that, and for me, there isn't that much to be going on about. So January, it's about that squad depth. Players that aren't getting minutes get out the door, bring stronger players in, players with experience. What I've liked actually that Brighton have done, they've got the likes of Lana, Milner. Very key reason they won against Tottenham, that experienced head, that know-how. Scored in against us enough times, experience to see us out. So I think in Europe, you've got to go out there, get someone who's really experienced, because generally it's quite a young and exciting team, experienced head in there, and I think it could be all right. So it could be an exciting thing, but at the same time, it could cost you the league. But it depends.
And really, you've hit the nail on the head there. And it's something I've been saying for a long time with this squad, is that we have got a group of very talented youngsters, but we've got Adam Smith. Yeah, he's experienced, but he's experienced in a Bournemouth side who, let's be fair, when we've been in the Premier League, we've been punching above our weight, and we still are as a football club. With the ground we are still punching above our weight. But Brighton have invested in, those players, that bit of experience, and that is vital, isn't it, really?
Yeah, absolutely. And what is kind of worrying, like you say, Brighton have made that significant investment. And generally, looking at a fully fit Brighton team, that squad is up there with the very best in the league. Not being funny. The players have got out now in Lampteys, in your Marches, in your Cisco's, your Matoma's top players. They still put out a strong team against us, but it could have been, even stronger. And they ultimately, I was just almost say struggling in the league, but they would have thought they'd been in a better position for sure. I mean, beat us, yes. They're still, they would have been thought they'd been in the top 6 at least, and they're not. And that for them is a concern, because again, they've done well in Europe. Where Newcastle, you kind of go, if you're Newcastle, you get through the group, or you get Europa League, you go, well, the season's still recoverable, January transfer window, players will come back, and at least we're still in Europe, but they're not. That's the problem, and they're not in the League Cup either. So Newcastle right now in particular are really stuck. Bournemouth, as you said, for the size of your stadium, to even be, for me, in and around that European spot is incredible. So you've got to look at January, because for me, in particular Tottenham, but where a lot of clubs make mistakes, they look at, and Bournemouth might do the same. For you guys, I hope not. You get there and go, you're inside the top 10. We don't really need to bring many players in or spend much money in January, because we're punching above our weight. Let's keep going. Whereas for me, you look at that going, right, what do we need to get to Europe? What do we need to plan? Because you can't all do it in the summer in case we get Europe. You've got to plan for those things. And the amount of times it's happened at Tottenham where we sat second in the league or third in the league under Conte and Mourinho, so many different managers, Pochettino, where we've gone just one more player and we could have maybe won the league, or we could have done this, etc. Champions League final, one more player. So it's really frustrating. So I think the January transfer window is very important for both teams in terms of European places.
This is the first season in a long time where I felt, and I probably since 2016 2017, when we had Jack Wilshere in the side, where we wasn't really looking over our shoulders, and I don't feel that we should be looking over our shoulders anymore, at those relegation places, thinking,
No?
oh, well, if we lose a game or lose 2 games, or we could get dragged back into it, because I don't think we are going to. I honestly don't think we are going to, which is, quite a privilege. I want to bring up a player who we did actually sign, and there was rumours, and I don't know how true they were, that Spurs were interested in him, and that's Alex Scott, who had a fantastic game the other day against Fulham. You know, what have you made of him? Because he's only a youngster. You know, he's got so much talent, and I honestly think we're probably going to be used as a stepping stone. In all honesty,
Yeah.
but I think he could go to the very top.
He can, and he's massively missed out on. And I made 2 to 3 videos in the summer about Alex Scott, why we should sign him, why he is the future. Because someone like Bournemouth, not being funny, I think it will be a stepping stone, but you can make a lot of money from that, and you can kickstart his career, and that's amazing memory. You can look back and go, maybe it's a long way ahead. I don't want to kind of put a barrier or anything, but let's say he goes and wins trophies or wins the Ballon d'Or, etc. You look back and go, look, this started at Bournemouth, and that's just, I think, a nice thing to kind of have as your reputation, if you like, as a club. So I think we massively missed out on Alex Scott. He's doing really well for such a young age. I think as well with our midfield crisis, he'd be quite good in there with the players we've got out. But I think he suits this Iriola's Bournemouth side, and I think he'd be a very key part. So we missed out on him. Very clever business from Bournemouth at such a good price as well. So for his sake, it'd be great to see him become that next big thing. I don't think it'll be yet, but I think eventually. But from what I've seen, looks really good, like you said as well the other day. But yeah, we definitely missed out on him.
I'm just hoping we can keep hold of him for a little bit longer. But I can see somebody big coming in for him eventually.
Yeah.
What I do with all my guests as well, Harry, is we do go on to a bit of a prediction ahead of the games. But firstly, before we do that, please do tell everybody where they can find Scarfey Spurs Talk.
Firstly, thank you very much for having me on. It's been great, and obviously good luck for the rest of the season. But after Sunday,
likewise,
you did very well, Roman. Thank you very much. But yeah, if you want to check out my channel, obviously Scarfey Spurs Talk, you can, YouTube, etc. Got match previews, match reactions, weekly live shows every Monday at 8 p.m. Getting our own view from our own fans, our own YouTubers, content creators, but also getting the opposition view, which is always very important. Got lots of fantastic guests booked in for the show, January and February. Go check it out. And a couple of weeks ago, I launched very own channel merch for the first time. So if you want to check that out, go check out the Scarfey Spurs Talk page on Twitter. It's the pin tweet, or my page, Harry Scarfe 22, the pin tweet there. About the channel merch. That's quite exciting. And also, if you want to get any numbers or names on the back, it is free of cost. So if you want to go check that out, it's a massive thank you for having me on.
Not a problem at all, mate. And I'll tell you what, the link is below. And do go and check out the merch as well. I did see it on Twitter or X earlier on, and it's trendy. It's nice. It's a nice shirt. So no, all the very best to you. But let's predict this game. Harry, how do you think this is going to go?
Oh, listen, if anyone who doesn't know me, I tend to be quite negative as it is. And I thought for once, going into the Bournemouth game, I was like, oh, well, look, we can end Bournemouth's run. But Kulusevski, for example, got suspended, and he's been really good recently. So it's such a shame. And that first 75, 80 minutes, annihilation, if you like, against Brighton, our worst performance of the season. I have no confidence going into Bournemouth, and I think that Ange will still put no centre-back out, and that is a worry. So I'm going to go 3-1 Bournemouth. I think Solanke will get a brace. I think Bournemouth will keep up the good form, close the gap on us. I think we'll be left scratching our heads in the January Judds window.
No, fair enough, and I respect the honesty there. I think that's probably the second time that's happened. Somebody's predicted against their own team. I'm not going to predict against my own team, but I'm going to, although my heart says, yeah, we can get the 3 points. And of course, that game last season was so memorable for so many reasons. It kick-started our survival campaign, and was one of the big points in that. And like you rightly said earlier on, Bill Foley was at a game, and I think those fine margins, if that goal by Jay Rodriguez had counted for Burnley, we might not even be in this position, but we are.
Yeah.
But I'm honestly going to be a little bit more conservative with this. I think it's going to probably be a 1-1 draw.
Would you take a point?
We would take a point, I think. Yeah, I would take a point. I don't know whether or not all the Bournemouth fans would take a point, considering our good form. But as long as we don't get beat, as long as we can keep this run going, it keeps breathing that confidence into this side. But personally, I think there's going to be a time where we're going to have to accept, you know, that there might be a little bit of a dip in form at some points, or the players might run out of steam.
Of
Um,
course.
and I think personally, after the decent run we've been on, I would still take a point.
Yeah,
Um,
I think you should take a point. However, I think personally for me, this is for you the best time to play us in terms of you're in incredible form. Of course, it'd be great to see you continue it, but you never know how long it's going to continue for. So at the moment, the best form, all season for you, and the players we've got out probably are not worst patch. We've only lost one game, but off the back of our worst performance of the season. Players suspended, etc. I'm not putting it on injuries because every club gets injured. See, a lot of fans go, "Oh, it's all on injuries, right?" A lot of it's our own problems, suspensions. That's why Basuma and Kulusevski are missing. We talk about how important the midfield is, so a lot of it is on us. So this is a good chance to play us. We're on the back of a loss, and we need to react. But I feel a good result coming for Bournemouth. This is a good time, but like you said, runs often come to an end. It's just about when you finally lose or you drop points where you didn't expect to, how you react from that and keep going, because you don't want to fall apart again and collapse, because like you said, it's really open in the Premier League, because if you lose one game and your heads drop, you could easily find yourself in a relegation battle again. That's how tight it is. If we lose a few games, we could find ourselves in Newcastle or Chelsea's position, so got to be very careful. But I'm very interested to see how it's going to pan out.
well, hopefully, fingers crossed, you're right, and we continue our good run of form. We have scored 3 in the last 3 games, and you have to go all the way back to that Manchester City defeat, that 6-1 defeat,
Wow.
which was at the start of November, for the last time we didn't score at least 2 in the Premier League. So again, I have to pinch myself when even saying that. Um,
Wow.
so I'm hoping, fingers crossed, we can do it again. 3 goals for the 4th game running.
We can't
Yeah.
defend either. Could be goals for you.
Who knows? It might even be 4, but yeah, you're probably hoping not.
No, exactly, yeah. Please no, not again.
But Harry, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. All the very, very best for the rest of the season. Have a lovely new year, and no doubt we'll catch up probably after the game as well, just to get your thoughts and see where your season goes later on in the 2024.
Exciting. Thank you very much. Good luck.
Not a problem at all. My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us on the show. Remember to hit the like, the subscribe, the bell button to be alerted to any new videos we do here on Up the Cherries in all departments. Please do go check out that video from Harry Redknapp, where I spoke to him and about such a memorable game. We did interview, to be honest, Harry's been on here about 6 times now, so go watch all of them, Spurs fans, and let us know what you think. But also, it'd be great to have you with us, so do please subscribe as well. Did you know as well, Spurs fans, that Simon Day, of course, that's amazing, Dave Angel, and the competitive dad is actually a Spurs fan. And I did interview him a couple of years ago now. So do check out that interview that I did with him. We do have a lot of other interviews here as well on Up the Cherries and all departments. So do check those out as well. See if any are to your liking. But until the new year, Up the Cherries, have a good one, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we can keep this form up. Up the Cherries, let's do this.